I hope that you're ready for an enthralling question and answer session with the director of the film, Mr. Bill Boa. Before we begin, I'm just going to let the crowd know how this is going to go, basically. So if you could please raise your hand as high as possible if you have a question. We'll try and get to as many as possible. Please shout and just project your voice throughout this beautiful theater. And I will repeat the question for the sake of everyone else here. I'd like to remind you that photographs are fine, but video recording is not permitted. And I believe we're actually, hopefully, going to be joined by the artistic director of TIFF, Mr. Cameron Bailey. But I think we should begin, because what the director of TIFF, yeah, you know. All right, well, I'll just start off with the first question. Sir, could you tell us a little bit about what Mr. Brian Wilson's involvement with the film was?
Well, he was very involved. He and his wife, Linda, were involved in the beginning. They were actually, when River Road, when I got involved in the project, there was a script already out there that Brian had kind of agreed to some degree. And that's when I read it, actually. Didn't like it, actually. And they were trying to put it together in a different way, so we said we loved the idea because he's different things. So we kind of started off new with Oren's script, which we all worked on, and Brian and Linda were kind of involved throughout. But they were, whenever you do a film about real people, it's hard. I mean, there's never going to be the definitive Brian Wilson film. It can only be my version or our version. There might be other versions, but this is the one we chose to do. And so Brian and Linda, as with any situation like that, they have to have a trust level with us and believe that we're going to do it in a good way and that our heart's in the right place. And that may not always agree with everything, but they were willing to do that. And thankfully, they, I think, are happy with the result they did here last night. So they have anything to see.
Do you have any special comments after seeing it last night?
Well, Brian is actually a very quiet guy. He lets the music speak for him. But last night he was much more outward about it than he's ever been before. He's not a big fan of social situations, but he was really great last night. So.
I see hand right here in the front row.
Bill, great work. Congratulations. It was fantastic. Talk about some of the decisions you made in balancing using the original music and then the recreation.
So the question was, can you discuss a little bit about the balance between using the original music and creations for the film?
Well, I mean, the first decision you have to make is, there's a great catalog of songs out there, and how much to use is the key thing. I never wanted to have it be a biopic kind of thing. Likewise, I didn't want it to be like Mamma Mia, where it was like, as great as the music is, that's not what this movie was intended to be. We wanted to get into Brian and Melinda, Brian's character more, and that's what was interesting to me about it. As much as I love the music, it was more about his story and trying to find out what's behind everything that he's been through in his life. And so that kind of came into play in how much music to use and how to use it. So you don't want it to rely on the music as a crutch. You want to be able to, and there's this temptation to try to put a song in to explain a scene or to, kind of illustrate or lean on. And we tried, honestly, not to do that as much as I would have liked. I had more music in there, just didn't feel right to the film itself. And so there was that part, how much music to use, and then how to use it. And the first casting we did was Paul Dano, as the young Brian. but it really was originally intended to be like kind of interweaving of two different times in his life. And to me, it was much more creatively exciting to have two different people play him. We didn't have them work together in any way. We honestly shot Paul out and then brought John in. And we didn't even have them talk to each other. It was really about them finding their own Brian for that particular period. And hopefully it worked. But the nice thing about Paul was that I didn't know what we were going to do about the music because there's no guarantee Paul can sing. And because I really loved him just, as an actor. So we actually had Brian's musical director go out to New York and sit with Paul. And within an hour of them getting together, he called with this video and said, Paul can actually sing. It was like Paul doing his first take of God Only Knows. It was like, wow, right out of the box, the guy didn't need to do anything. It was really great. So,
I see a hand in the center, and I'll come back to you. Go ahead.
I just want to say I never heard the Beach Boys music really that well and that whole person. This movie moved me. It moved me, the movie. And I want to ask, how is it, what is your view of Brian Wilson? The movie really shows sort of the struggles he goes through, sort of the peace he finds at the end of this film. What was your view of it? What did you feel like communicate that through this film?
So the question was, in the end, what do you think, or how do you think the portrayal was of Brian Wilson's struggle towards the end of the film? Am I correct?
Yes, and if you feel like you accurately portrayed Brian through this film, like your view of him.
Do you feel like you've accurately portrayed your view of Brian in the film?
yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. Again, I keep saying, because you got to say it to Brian and Melinda as well as to everybody else, it's not the definitive Brian Wilson film. It's my version or our version of the film of him, because no film can ever definitively capture anybody's life. And that's why we didn't want to do a biopic where you try to hit every spot. We just like, let's paint a portrait and this is how we're painting it. And hopefully people like it. But just like any other portrait or like a painting situation where you have different people depicting a single person, it's all different takes on it. Hopefully it stands on its own. I'm not sure if I answered that.
You did, thank you, it was great.
It's a amazing film, thanks so much, and congratulations. I just was curious about the cast process in terms of selecting Mario, how that comes about, and as well,
Can you discuss the casting? How did you choose Paul and John Cusack for the roles?
Yeah, I mean, again, Paul, to be honest, was an easy one for me because I've respected him as an actor for so long, and you've got this iconic image of Brian at that era, and you look at Paul and think of the possibilities. I mean, I've always loved the fact that Paul's played a lot of edgy characters in his career, and the idea of him playing a softer, more sympathetic character and kind of a hero in a way was always exciting to me. So that was easy, and thankfully he said yes, which was great. Brian Future, as we call him, was a little tougher, because if you look at Brian during those years, the 80s, you can look at whatever, Google or whatever, and there'll be pictures of all these people that look totally different. They're all Brian, but you almost can't tell it's the same person. So trying to decide which Brian image to focus on, was going to drive the casting of that part. And there's a Don Was documentary called I Just Wasn't Made for These Times, which is a great documentary, by the way. And I rewatched that as we were going through the process, and the image of Brian that comes up from that era is, it just immediately flashed on John. And and plus it would be exciting to have John, I don't know, based on the things he's done, before and lately, the idea of like him taking on a role like this and really kind of getting into it was exciting to me. Elizabeth was not an easy one, but not a tough one. I met with Elizabeth, and she is like very much like Melinda. Melinda's a real, as I think Elizabeth called her last night, like a spitfire, or she's a sassy woman, and that's how Elizabeth is. So, the first meeting was like a really great connection already.
I see one straight ahead in the balcony at the top, center, yeah.
Hi. Awesome. Obviously, really great. I just wanted to ask you about a particular shot. It was my favorite in the movie. It's when Paul Dano first plays God Only Knows, and it follows him from one side all the way around behind the piano and we see the spot. And my question is, how do you go about setting up that scene and bringing up that intensity, and then while Paul's playing, doing a bunch of takes, or like you said, you on the first track?
So how did filming of Paul playing the piano go? Did it take multiple takes or things like that?
Yeah, well, we didn't use multiple takes. We used, I think it was take 4 actually. And the shot was designed to be that way, and miraculously worked out. But the idea there was to have it start so you didn't really know where you were, and it kind of took you through the evolution of the song a little bit from when Brian originally started playing it until he got more confident and then got to